easy. I don't know if it's good. Hey, Denise. Welcome. I'm going to pick a background that you can see the comments good, but this thing won't even let me slide it over. I don't know why, though. I think that's the one I usually do. Like, why are you changing it? Hey, Red Jasper. Luna! Woo woo! I'm trying to pick the background, and I want to be able to see the comments good, so I'm going to switch one more. Tell me what you think. Can you see the comments good or not really? Probably the other one's better, huh? Oh, you can see them good? I kind of like this one. It's new. It's a little different. But look at this one. This is funny. It's not really my favorite, but if I was doing some kind of, well, you do acting. Look at this. Hello. It might be the one. Hey, Bobby. Welcome. Can you hear me now?
Hello, Tina.
Hey, welcome.
Good evening to you.
Good
How
evening.
you doing?
I'm really well. I was late getting out of work and I was rushing and I was like backstricking, kind of rushing, like I knew I had time, but I don't like to. That's why this is a hard night for me because I just get in just in time. How are you?
Doing well. I'm doing well. I'm here looking forward to this tonight.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Bear with me for a second because I'm kind of like, I want to make it back to the two panel and I don't know how it got to this.
Finally figured it out about 10 days ago. So, you know how you get the four options?
Okay.
Oh, you made me bigger. Okay. So, go to your panels and choose the second one and then choose the minimum, which is I think 2.
Can't believe this is happening. I had it that way and then I lost it. Do you like this background? Because it's kind of funny. I like the star one, and they said you could see the comments good too. Let's see if this is, man. I feel like I'm stuttering. I heard what you said though, but for some reason it's just
It's possible you don't have there's another button or selection that right. Okay, so the second box. And do you see the numbers on the bottom beneath the 4 panels? It says like anywhere from 2 to 8, I think.
okay. I should have seen that before, and it's so weird that I can actually see something and not remember what I saw. I'm probably not the only one who does that, but I'm gonna give it this last go, and then that's gonna be it. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. Sorry. It was like that, and when I pushed invite, it changed.
And you have another selection if you scroll down beneath. You got the four boxes. You've got 2 to 8, and then you've got show available boxes. I think, and you have to turn that off.
Oh boy.
Oh, you're very small.
I'm getting, this is, this is getting worse. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. We'll be all right. Two. I put two. Always show layout. All right, that's a wrap for that. Let's see what happens when we do this part. That's it. I tried to practice and all, but that's okay.
Well,
Here we go.
maybe there's someone in that box that we can't see.
It's our little friend. Okay, moving on. So, where do we begin? I'm a roast. Have you seen Joe Dirt? Gotta keep that mic unmuted now, Alien T.
Yeah, that's hard for me to do.
You could do it.
Okay.
So,
Your house, your rules. I'm here.
no, just relax.
But I'm just going to be opening a door. It's going to make some noise, so I'll unmute in 1 sec. 1 sec.
Okay, you got it.
All right. So you don't you want to be in the big box?
Oh,
You're the
I don't even
host.
know how to make myself not have myself on the screen, so that's why it started out like this. I was just gonna have my picture like when I'm in a group in a thing, and I'm not very tech savvy. That's why I tell you all the time that I
I
don't.
did that.
You did that?
I did that.
How can you do that? You're magic.
I'm Alien Magic Man. So yeah, when you click your box, I don't know if people know that, but they have the option of shrinking themselves.
I did not know that.
But you cannot expand yourself unless you're a moderator or host.
But you can shrink yourself. I love it. Well, I have your Neptune frequency too. We're gonna be listening to.
Oh, hey, Luna Tuna. Nice to see you. Kind words.
So you seen Joe Dirt, okay? You ever seen the movie Joe Dirt?
I have to Google it to see the actors, and then I'll remember. I've seen too many movies.
All right, it's David Spade, and he gets interviewed by this guy, and he says, "I'm a roast, base me." so
Okay.
so that's it. I'm a roast. So that's why I say that. I wanted to start with thank you and I love you and all that kind of good stuff. But tell me what when you say the true Christ, because you had a passion and a solidarity behind it when you said that the first day. And I was like, I just want to hear what I just want you to just come out the gate and then we can go from there.
All right. So you want to get right into it. Well, first of all, let me say that, this is only my perspective. It's only my understanding. I'm not here to say this is exactly the way it is. But for me, it makes sense. And I've just had experiences and was given, I don't want to say given revelation. I was given insight on you know, what really went down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I don't know how you want to do this. If you want me to say something on it, or if you would like to ask me questions.
No, you know how when there's a vision or something and it's just like you just want to get it out, you just want to say it like that. Like because sometimes we filter how we think other people would want to hear it. but just say it the way that you're excited about saying it from what you just said about your perspective on how it went down.
Okay.
Say it. What's it when it went down?
Um, that incarnation, that actual time where an amazing, an amazing being came to deliver a set of teachings that would lead people to empowerment, self empowerment, that would lead people to um, you know manifesting a reality for themselves that was surrounded in love and not judgment, and um, just an overall healthier existence in this here and now. And there's two Christs as I see it. There is the one that I and anyone can read. You can read his teachings. You can understand that he was one with God, meaning he was one with the Creator. He had given up the earthly um, distractions, desires, the ones that get us into trouble, perhaps, and found, a path to empower others. He was gifted. He was powerful because of that connection with the one source. And unfortunately, what happens over time is that when when you tell a person that, hey, this is your path, you've got the power, it's in your hands, some people turn from that because they can't handle it. They can't handle the um, responsibility, perhaps. It's letting go. It's letting go of the desires of the body, the physical limitations, the fear. Ultimately, it is between love and fear. And I can get into details. I will get into details to back up what I'm claiming. And what happens is, the religion claims this person's teachings, and then they claim to represent exactly who he was. They deified him, made him a god, and unfortunately, there's a lot of hypocrisy which he fought against at his time. But there's a lot to get into. I mean, this is
I love it.
it's a deep topic, and I don't know if you have questions or not, but I can go on. I just don't know where to start
I
or to end.
know.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of a thing because I was thinking 6,000 years ago, who was, talked about or what was the thing, and then so does Saint Germain have anything to do with the perspective that you're talking about tonight?
So I've heard that name before. I'm not familiar. Can you tell me more about it?
It's just when they call it the Nation of the White Brotherhood, and it's not a race thing. It's just somebody who lived and was said to have lived like five. He said he claimed like he lived like 500 years or something. And so that's part of what I talk about when I talk about us being able to live and we have a certain type of faith. But that's it. I just thought it might have something to do with part of the reasoning, because with the true Christ, what are your thoughts on us living and not perishing? Our body's not designed to perish and all that stuff. And the mindset and what we think about grows and all of that. In with your
Okay. All right. So now that's you're going right into the tough one. Okay. So the tough one is this: Do we need our physical body to exist outside of or after the physical has given up? And my answer is no. That is not our true body. We still have a spiritual body, and that spiritual body is intact and leaves the physical upon the physical ceasing to exist. In other words, it is finite. This incarnation is limited for your, 70, 80, 90 years, whatever it is. And it's the spirit that receives all the blessings of the experience and it takes it with it. And so, in other words, you take the spiritual gifts with you. We do not take the material, obviously. And therefore, uh, and this is where I guess, if there's any Christians in the room, much love. I really love everyone. I was raised Christian, but for whatever reason, you know, I was shown differently and I needed to see things differently for whatever purpose. But the resurrection story may or may not have happened, or it was a spiritual resurrection, which really happens with everyone. I mean, even the thief on the cross was told in the story in the Bible that that day he would be in paradise with him. So it's not necessarily only Christ, but everyone who continues on after the physical existence.
I thought it was real. This is one of the things I'm still praying about and asking about is that because Christ being sit at the right hand of the Father, that would be spiritually. But what happened with the flesh? Like, how is that resurrected? How did it, where there was a vision of somebody, and the Bible records showing up in a gardener and stuff like that, but it wasn't like, hey, I'm back. It's me, you know, after that perishing. So that's why, that's the one little part of this thing that when you say what you just said about the spirit living on and doing it that way, this really requires us to have faith and no limits to our thinking. But at the same time, it feels like it's so much to think that there are no limits. It's overwhelming for a human to think that there are no limits.
Our limits are limited,
Yeah.
limited to this incarnation, right? And rightfully so, because in order to experience, in order to, you know, to fall out of the Garden of Eden, whatever you want to call the analogy, the metaphor, the fact is we have come here where it is a little more difficult here, and there's pain and suffering. There are lessons, and that is because the balance of the universe is, you know give and take, so to speak, to keep the balance. Uh, but really, everything that we're here experiencing is helping us grow. We are not fully grown spiritually, in my opinion. I think that's a process that is happening over many incarnations. That is what helps us grow. And we are like a seed becoming, or an acorn becoming a beautiful giant oak tree, more in the image of what, and I'm using Christian terms, but in the image of the Creator. And what that means to me is that, some people have had more incarnations, and that's why maybe they're more aware, they have more experience, they have more insight, perhaps. But in essence, we're all headed in the same direction. Um,
Which is what?
it is a direction of fulfilling our potential. Yeah.
So,
So
okay.
we're little kids. We're little kids, and we're gonna grow into beautiful. Or we're caterpillars. We're gonna grow into beautiful butterflies.
All
All of
right.
us.
Here's another fold. So, in the theory of the fallen angels and the spirits that would be called demons, which I have learned is the dark side of myself, and the sway of energies. For example, whenever my mirroring taught me certain things, like the way that the trauma felt in my body when that was happening to me, and I equated that with love, that was something that was distorted. It was supposed to be love. It was supposed to be for adults and love in that way. So it got twisted. But that's what the demons or those energies do to little kids to get it all messed up so that they don't function properly and they go through all of these hardships. So, as the adult looking at it that way, that to me is when it's my mission to bind that. When they talk about binding the devil or binding the demons, that when I learn to, they like to say transmute here, what we're talking about these days, that energy from that and that thought process, that's wrong, it's not right, it's something that really resonated in my physiological, that I had to undo and think in a different way of process, because the what happened in all of those horrors, I wanted to unalive. I did not want to live, but something inside of me deeper knew that it was that life and life more abundantly was the is the goal for me. So, what is your theory then about humans that have those experiences transmuting and binding those demons, like getting rid of them in that perspective and not loosing it on earth?
Okay, so let's talk about demons. Okay, everything serves us, and they are teaching us how to take ownership of our power, even over them. It is about managing our emotions. It is about managing control of our thoughts and focus to overcome these challenges. And, um, you said transmutation. So, what is transmutation of energy? Everything is mind, first of all. Everything is processed by our minds, our thoughts. Even pain, even physical pain is processed, you know, not the brain, but the mind, because the soul has a mind too. And to me, it is eliminating the fear associated with anything. That's how we transmute energy. And for example, before I started these lives, what fueled it? A lot of things fueled it. A passion for truth, a passion for other people, for the struggles they have, a passion for helping people see the power within themselves, and some grief. The passing of in a short period of time, just over a year, I lost my dad. My only daughter moved out of the house. My 16-year-old cat, who I love, passed. And then my mom unexpectedly passed. That was a big one because I found her only because she wasn't answering her phone. My dad had cancer and fought it for 20 years. It was rough for the last 2 years, and I was able to spend literally every day with him for the past year of his life. And so he gave us time to prepare. My mom, on the other hand, did not. And, people wonder, okay, what happens after we pass on? And I've got an easy street. I'm going to say it. They're always showing me things, and it's easy to believe or understand or know when you have these things happen. Like, for example, there were communications from the other side to me, not necessarily telling me about my mom, but after my mom passed, I understood that, as limitless as we like to think we are, and perhaps we are, but maybe not yet, as limitless as we like to think we are, the reality is there is something that is set out for us for this incarnation. And I was not to interfere with my mother's, which is why I did not pick up anything intuitively, psychically, that she needed me. to prevent that from happening, and that was because I was blocked from it because they knew I would have intervened and um, it needed to happen. But I understood at the end of it that, and I was being told 6, 7, 8 months before it happened. I was given signs like breadcrumbs, some people call them, to understand it after it happened, and that helped me through the grief. And you know what? When someone passes, it's still difficult. It is. Um, there is a spiritual connection still. I can still feel it. It's thinner, and then you miss their presence, obviously, their physical presence. My point is that because of all this, I understand, and what I thought was real, I know is real now, and that is we do go on, and it happens immediately. It's not like we are stuck in the physical body. It is not like, um, even though there are some, we hear stories of entities hanging around graveyards and things like that, or houses. Those are different, and I have a theory on that too. There's different types of these energies. Some are even poltergeists are actually created from trauma from the people who live in the house. That's been proven, or at least by the paranormal groups. I'm kind of off track here because transmutation to me is understanding the bigger picture. And when I was able to do that, I was able to create these lives and use that as fuel to do what I'm doing. A big part of it is because my mom was just that way. She used to help people all the time. She had a huge heart, well, still does, wherever she is. And sometimes that is turning a negative into a positive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sorry for the long, that was a bit long.
No, it's just that I knew that this was because I knew that your story was that your lives and this mission was derived from an expression and also a knowing that this was going to help many people. What you were going to do, you were transmuting this, and you have done that, and you are doing this, and there's another level to this that we have a lot of people that we associate with regularly, and one of the things that came up in my spirit about this thing at this point in this conversation is that when I gave that baby up for adoption, they told me to grieve him like he was unalived. And I couldn't. I couldn't think of him as not alive. But the reason they said that is because the stages of grief and the grieving process is the same because it's that loss. And pretty much it's the same for all losses, but they in the stages of grief. So the people that we're dealing with, a lot of the stuff in my case too, and it sounds like you were blessed to have your parents for your whole life until this time that you're now experiencing after all of this, the good input, the good mirroring, this life, the feeling that children feel when they're born on the planet and they're given up for adoption, or their parents walk out on them, or their parents abuse them. That starts in their first 8 years of life, that's their mirroring. So you coming into this at this stage in the game, you're understanding it from an adult perspective, which gives you a huge solid ground to stand on, like this platform that you created for people to help. So this is just another, what I'm saying now is another avenue of understanding the people that come in here and they're fired up about whatever they're doing, and they're going to do it, and they got their mindset, and it's not quite undone and not quite there because their mirroring was originated from the people that was supposed to love them the most with abandonment or abuse or something like that. So they've had to find inside of themselves a way to handle this, and they want to help too. They want to put something out there, but when it's a little bit skewed and a little bit off, because there's a lot of people with unhealed things going on in the dynamic, it becomes discombobulated is a good word I could use for it right now. And then there are things that people want to lash out about in certain types of things and certain boundaries they want to put that are more rigid than maybe needs to be because of that level of healing, but we're all still trying to swim through this thing together and figure it out. I know you see that. And so
See it. You know what I don't see is, if you don't mind me asking, I don't know when you speak of a child, if it's not too personal, you gave a child up for adoption, you said?
yeah, my second son
Okay.
at birth. Yeah.
I can feel that.
Yeah, he's
I
30
can't be.
something. He's 30 something now. But that was the start of, I knew that I wanted him to have something better, and it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. But once I got into the idea of that, it's not normal for parents, for mothers to be separated from their children for any reason. I mean, to me, it was better than having an abortion, and I couldn't do it. I could not do that. I know I couldn't do that because there were other incidences that I couldn't do that with. But at the same time, that feeling, that like when you talk about you still feel your parents, that feeling does not go away for a child, whether you give them up for adoption or they right next to you. It's the same feeling of that connection to them, and there he's still on the planet, you know. So it's a little different because it's not the unalive part, but the grief was still, I mean, it's 30, he's 30 years old now. But that when children go through that, they feel that, the
I have a
loss.
daughter. I have one daughter. She's 30. Um, she lives an hour and a half away, but I feel like she's still in the house. I feel like she's still next to me. Um, that feeling does never go away. And as a matter of fact, um, that love bond is natural. It is pure. It is authentic, especially between, mother and daughter, mother and son. Do we need to be next to each other in order to? I mean, are you still? Have you spoken ever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, it's he just, it didn't work out for him. The people were not what he would have chosen if he was like, okay, let me pick them because this is happening. And he would have rather been with us, with me, with my other children. And it just, I had nowhere to go. And I didn't have I mean, I had nothing. The only little car I had broke. I didn't even have a car. I was homeless with a child in a car already when I got pregnant with him. So it was just how it was. But it didn't work out for him because he did not like the way that it went. His parents have money, and he's very heart based, and he would have rather had heart base instead of money base. And you know
That now.
what's that?
He can have that now.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated
Okay.
than that because he started out with his his mother abandoning him, you know, and that already was a detriment. And then instead of him being seen for a person, it was about what money could buy for him. And that is something that will mess a person up, and they have to figure, I mean, I know that I'm standing in for him in the spirit world, but until something major happens and a shift happens, this chain that has to be broken relating to poverty and money in our generation, in our lineage, that's what we're here to break. I mean, basically that's what we have come to realize, that we're breaking that chain. Because I never thought of money, like I always had everything I was provided for. But when I look back, money is the reason that it went the way it went with my children. So I'm real big on praying about that money demon to be at bay. I want everybody to have housing and all that.
They say that considering the options you had, um, you did not choose the easy one for you. You gave him life.
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows that.
Yeah, he does. But yeah, that's just, that was a big thing then. There's so much more besides that, but that was the first time I really got the feeling of that type of being alone and knowing that I wasn't alone because I know the spirit's there, but completely feeling alone even surrounded by people. That was the kickoff of the imbalance in the nervous system. That's just a major loss. But yeah, that's what people are dealing with, that we're dealing with on a daily basis in these groups, is people who have had childhood traumas and a lot of abandonment, that it's hard for them to be normal and function where they're not feeling fear or shame, or like their original parent that should have taken care of them abandoned them, so they have a loss within themselves and they're trying to make up for it by ambitioning or being, in the spotlight. Or I mean, that's what I did. I ambitioned myself right into the ground. It was like,
So the two of us have kids, same age, 30. Do the math. I'm up there. And my name is Aileen T. And you want to talk to me about normal? I reject normal, what this world considers normal. I much rather, I never was, never will be.
that's right.
Not by earthly terms, no. But I hear you. I hear you. And I didn't know that, actually.
What about the adoption?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But
And
dude,
that's a,
that was like a normal trauma, you know? Like girls have that happen. There was so much more after that because that was held against me at one point, and that really kicked off stuff. But shit, I'm on the other side of that now too. But yeah, so what my focus has always been is the Messiah. So that's why when you say the true Christ, my brain went. I don't know if it's like we're speaking in the physical form, what you were talking about when he walked the earth, or the hope form that we don't see, like the complete faith part.
get back to the true Christ. Um, okay, here we go. Guys, you guys can, call the Pharisees, call the Romans, and have them take me away and do whatever they will with me. What happened before the cross is what's important.
Okay.
That is his legacy. That is his magic. That is his gift to this world, his teachings. Let's go to the Sermon on the Mount where, and people say, yes, he's the Messiah. He came to fulfill the old laws. No laws shall be changed. Not whatever the word is, the funny word. You know what I mean, right? Okay, so he was talking about the universal laws,
Yeah.
because he did say that he did come for the lost sheep of Israel, and he said, I do not come in peace. I come with a sword to divide son from father, daughter from mother, and so on. He was deconstructing people from some of the misconceptions of what spirituality truly is. In other words, what it means to be righteous, if we're going to use some of those words. The 613 laws, not important. He changed a whole bunch of them. He, as a matter of fact, gave us one, the golden rule, and that is do unto others as you would like for them to do unto you, and live in love. Be compassionate, kind. On the Sermon on the Mount, he said clearly, "You have heard an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. Now I tell you, turn the other cheek." That's forgiveness. That is ascending to your higher self. That is embracing love over anger, hate, and everything that has torn this world apart. Um, there are many things he changed. And as a matter of fact, he was rebellious. He came and disrupted. And what he did was wake people up inside. And he didn't write any scriptures because he would empower others and then it would spread. Even his disciples went out two by two, so to speak, because they were awoken. They had the divine. Everyone has the divine in them. It's just in a dormant state until we make that decision to let go of the other one so that we could connect to the higher self. And then we don't need books. We don't need teachers. We don't need leaders. As a matter of fact, he said, "Why do you call me good? Only the Father is good." Or the father and mother, of course, now. But back then, it was written that way. My point is that the true Christ empowered people. He did not want to create followers. He wanted to create leaders. And it was spreading word of mouth, and that's why eventually they came up with, I know you love Paul, but
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
he kind of brought everyone back to the Old Testament with that. And that was the ruler's way of controlling these people that were getting out of control. They could no longer be controlled. They were waking up in a very real, energetic, authentic way. In other words, right now, all these lives we're doing, if we were doing them back then, we would have been thrown in prison, hung, or whatever they did, burned at the stake later, all of that. Because when people are connected to their true self and they're giving love, they cannot control us. Their ways do not work. And there's a lot more. I can get into more details, but if you have any questions, please, maybe that'll help me. I just don't know what direction to go right now.
I know it's a lot and I love it. So Paul, let's just branch off there for a minute. What memory do you have that you got a realization of what about Paul, and what was it about Paul, and why is it such that way about him, and how you feel about it, him, and that whole thing?
Okay. So, a couple of things. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know 100% where he was coming from, what his intentions were. He may have meant well. He may have had that awakening that we talk about. He may have, had some sort of a spiritual experience on the road. But then he filtered it and kind of went back. His teachings, and we know that Christian scholars will point out the fact that Paul's teachings do differ from Christ's teachings because they are for the Gentiles. Meanwhile, Christ did not only perform miracles for the Jews. He performed them for Gentiles. There was no barrier there. There was no exclusivity. And the biggest reason I know this is intuitively. And when I had my experience, which I shared once or twice, and then I reference and start looking at the book, I realize the difference. And the difference, quite simply, is that my truth sensor tells me the truth about what I'm reading. To get into religious terms, I believe it's called the red letters. In other words, if it doesn't say Jesus said, then it's not worth reading in my books. And when I read Paul, I get a different feeling. I get a different energy from that. And it brings me back to the Old Testament. Christ said, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven. And he spoke about the true living God, and the true living God is within you. He said the kingdom is within you, all of us. It is really a lot about, you know, a lot of the truth is in the lives we hold and the topics we talk about. And when people come in and they connect to their true self and share their experiences and speak in a comfortable manner where they don't feel like they're going to be judged or they're going to be talked over, which is why I do things the way I do, what you start to see is that there is commonality between everyone, regardless of religion, race, financial status, anything. It doesn't matter. You know, spiritual beings are spiritual beings, and we have that at the core. We have that in common. Everything else are just stories and different experiences that we've come here to experience. But behind all that is the one true living energy, which is the source, the creator, not not something that was translated or conveyed by people that might not have been connected to that. You know, a lot of the writings in the Bible, they are fear-based. They are from a place of not enlightenment, but darkness, you know. So anyway, that's what it is about Paul. Also, the other thing is that in previous chats before I came, in previous chats before I came to TikTok, I would quote Christ in my own words in discussions about certain things, and they would say blasphemy. No, they would cuss me out, and they would then quickly quote Paul or the Old Testament, but they would never quote Christ. And that showed me the difference also in real time. In other words, it confirmed what I had come to know. Yeah.
When I was little, I was jealous of Jesus because everybody loved him and I felt like nobody loved me. So I went through this real thing, like making an enemy. And that's when they say, you take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. So the enemy, the thing that went all the way to the darkness and the pits of hell, that's one of the first things that I remembered that I did that was antichrist, like blasphemous, was I was jealous of Jesus. And that told me later that that root of jealousy is in there. And it was innocent, like, because I know my creator and I know my creator loves me and I know he gets it, you know. And then when we talk about the mother, because that's the Pluto energy, that the mother, boy, that the mother wound is the one that goes under the father wound. So when the daddy wound gets healed, the mommy wound's got to be worked on. And that was one of the starts of some prongs about, because I felt like that about Paul too. But in the beginning, I felt like in young, really young, like, well, I mean, all that stuff was happening to me, but I was jealous of Jesus. That's really
What's about? Just curious.
because everybody loved him. They all talked about Jesus, and everybody loved Jesus, and I felt like nobody loved me, and I couldn't comprehend not having love and wishing that people would love me like they love Jesus. But then when I got older, I realized people ain't really loving Jesus. They just saying they loving Jesus and not really doing what Jesus did or said, you know, to do. And I mean, that's the journey. That's just, I was a little kid when I thought that.
Good. That's cool. Um, so here's what I've learned about and I call him Christ just to point out the difference between the religious, not Yeshua, not Jesus. I call him Christ because there is that Christ consciousness in all of us too. And um, Christ is a title. I understand that. I did my studies. I really understand it all. But both with the monkey mind and also with the heart or the spirit. And what I understand is that when I see somebody who has achieved the kind of connection he had, it inspires me to strive to do that as well, as much as possible. I'm not suggesting I'm even anywhere close to that. There's no way.
But why not?
Well, because I'm not willing to let go of all my attachments like he did.
That's honest.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm still doing a bit of a 70-30 split. Let's call it that.
Stop it.
I'm not selling my house. I like it. Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is, he encourages us by reminding us that, we are all equals. He called us brothers and sisters. He did not talk down to people. And as a matter of fact, he put himself lower and boosted others. He really did. He would wash other people's feet, so to speak, right? As it's written, whether it's figurative or literal. I just, you know, I have Christ, I have the Buddha, and Krishna. I'm starting to look into. And when you really look at what they taught, they're almost all saying the same thing, in essence. And that is because that truth, Alpha Omega, it's always has been, always will be. I think that truth of love does not change. And ultimately, what is more important? Is it truth, or is it the way we treat each other? Maybe that is what truth is. Maybe truth is, are you able to coexist with someone who does not agree with you and treat them with respect? I mean, if it's as simple as that, my goodness, we wouldn't have any wars. We wouldn't have any poverty, not to the extremes we have it. The suffering can, I think, be reduced substantially. And I understand people come here for different journeys. I get all that. But I think, to me, the extremes are way out of whack. It's out of balance. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now. And people are stepping up and speaking more and more about spirituality to make those changes, because they have to happen.
The inner work that it takes to overcome that is, to me, I mean, and I have overcome so much. That's why when we, especially me, talk about what the things that happened, it's because I know that there are people sitting in silence and not having anybody to talk to, because what they lived through was so horrendous that they would be judged. So I have this mission to say it, no matter how bad it is, no matter how nasty it is. And I haven't opened up to a quarter this much of what has really went on in my life, so that people can see what was it for me that brought me out of it, that caused me to stay steady, to stay healthy, to everything that I overcame. And that is the Christ, what the Christ did. But I say the Messiah in the spirit world. So in the spirit world, before, we didn't have the ability to have the spirit live inside of us, but now we do. So when our mind, I speak for myself, when I say our, I mean all of us, for sure, we all have this opportunity, but I speak from my terms. When I would focus my thoughts, and when I focus my thoughts and I feel the energy and I feel all of that mess, here they're going to make me do a puzzle, hang on. All of that mess.
I can't stand those puzzles.
I know. So they give them to you too. Okay, I got you. When all of that mess is in the heart space and it has to come up through the root system, so the brain and the heart are meeting, that's where God is in the middle. That's the love in the middle. So when we have boundaries around that and we don't want anyone in there and they be coming up here like trying to get in there, and then you open up to them and then they go, to you, you know, and you're like, that is very difficult in the world that we live in right now, because somebody wants to take a little bit of what they hear about somebody's story and then it hits them in a spot that goes way under their pain. And instead of going under their pain and healing that and believing that somebody is for them, because they're so used to being alone and fighting these entities on their own, that it's difficult to open up and allow anybody in. So we repel love. And this is all speaking from what I lived through myself, what I had to grow through myself, what I had to heal through myself. But I see it because I did it, because it takes one to know one, you know? So for me to step in and try to help, because trying ain't doing the do, it is met with these entities still living in human flesh that are not healed. So they go power up in certain other areas to protect themselves so they don't feel so vulnerable, so they can stay on their trip or their ride or whatever their goal is for their end result. And we talked about this, or I listened in on last night, I think it was last night, about the different races of star seeds and the Lyrians and the Pleiadians and the Siri, all of the branches. I got to thinking, because I've thought about this many times before, but I know that I'm human. I know that all of these entities have my back. I already know. But it makes me wonder, because when I did go through not knowing, and it was a lot of trauma, not knowing who I was, exactly where I was going to be, what was going to happen, I branched off thinking I was this, thinking I was that, because it gave me a sense of something that felt more powerful than my internal vulnerability, that I had to find some superhero way to myself to power myself up and ambition myself to survive, which is the ego, which survived me. So when I had to get that balance to bring it back down to what do I really want, I had to get still and get alone and get quiet. I was out there with it. Because I was that way with my family, and then when it went the way it went, I was out there with it, because I'm like, no, this is, when we look back on this, we're going to be able to see exactly what that kind of matter though will do to a human being, and then we're going to see how we heal through that and get to this side of it, and then we're going to bring people up. We're going to reach in, grab them, and pull them out. But here's the kicker: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And if they got any kind of thread, I mean, I was jealous of Jesus, you know. If they got any kind of thread inside of them, they will pew pew the messenger.
Make a suggestion.
Sure.
Those threats you're talking about, the stored trauma, the suppressed emotions, those are the demons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it speaks of, Christ and his disciples going around exercising people, really, what they're doing is giving them that either energetic release of that energy, which is Reiki today. Laying on of hands is definitely Reiki. Energy is a thing. It really, really is. And there's a lot of people that are heavily into the religion, so heavily that they just write it off as New Age, including meditation, which is what Christ taught. When you pray, go to your room, close the door, don't go to the churches. And because when you go into a crowd, this is what he meant by this. When you go into a crowd and you're showing your neighbors and your peers that you are holy by attending a synagogue or a church or a temple and praying, it ends there. You see, it ends right there, because now you're looking for the approval of your peers.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it in private In other words, when you even when you do acts of kindness without seeking any acknowledgement for it, that is the true spiritual gift that you receive within you. There's a change inside of us energetically that happens based on our choices. And I understand I'm not here to judge anybody's choices, including my own, half a lifetime ago, and maybe a few here and there too, including one this morning with Mrs. T, which she won't let me forget. So, we're still working on it. The point is that are we here to, excuse me, truly embrace our spiritual nature and try to manifest it on earth? What does that entail? What does that mean? What sacrifice do we have to make? These are all words I'm using, associated with the teachings of Christ, but the Bible, really, sacrifice. There's even a part where Christ said, "It is kindness, not sacrifice, that pleases my Father." Which is why what I said earlier, what really matters is not the cross, but what happened before that. And that was his spreading the teaching of love and forgiveness and kindness, compassion. That's what the true Christ is to me.
That's the truth. Yeah, the oh boy, I just got lost. It was about about obedience is better than sacrifice. That's when we talk about the natural laws. That's why I love the natural laws. So when we bring it in, grown, which religion were you born in? Religion? You said you were born in religion. I don't remember.
It got me going to church. I was an altar boy for 2 years.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
wondering about
yeah.
that. So
And by 11 or 12, I can't remember exactly, I was already seeing what I call the hypocrisy, meaning, well, I read, I hear this, but I see that. And I started questioning. And then I just stopped and I stopped going. But I would speak to my grandmother and say, listen, I believe that there is a God. I believe that there is a creator. I wouldn't use those words. I would speak in her language because she really, really was devout. My mom was more like me or somewhere in between. And, the bottom line is I think we should respect anybody that pursues spirituality, no matter where they're at. And, if I know there are good people in religion that see what we're talking about, they understand that it is greater than what we're being taught, that there is something more authentic than what we're being taught. The atrocities of the past that were committed by all religions, I will say, I don't know, I got to look into the Buddhists. I'm not sure if they were violent or not, but at some point, even if it's self-defense, my goodness, what are we fighting for if we're harming other people? So, where am I going with this, Tina? Help me.
yeah, because this part of doing things in the name of Christ, but actually hurting another person, like we're going to power up. I call those the zealots. So I love the movie Jesus of Nazareth. It's 6 hours long, but the zealots in that the way that they portrayed it, that were backing the dude that got freed, Barabbas. They were backing him. They were trying to get rid of the oppressor, which was Rome. And that in that movie, it's so beautiful how they put it, because that is what the illustration was, is that that's not what Christ came to do. It wasn't to zealotly go annihilate, you know, like the, I don't know if I'm supposed to say Zionist movement or whatever in the name of Christianity, and unaliving our neighbor. our brother, our children. That is the to me that's what I call the zealots, the zealous movement. And
Yeah, I hear it.
yeah,
And I know you got to be careful where you go because it can delve into some areas that are considered no fly zones. I'll say
yeah,
it that way.
that's one for sure.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that's what's happening now. And but the whole goal was that we become unoppressed within. That when we apply the natural laws, we want to we when we heal what's going on inside of us, we want to be kind. We don't want anyone to suffer. Even if we suffered, we and they hurt us, we don't want them to hurt. We want them to heal. And I speak from my own mission. I That's the kind of stuff that I transmute, so that I ask that all the pain and the decisions that I made, because I knew I had to make that decision to get through where I was, that anybody who's had any connection to that, that they're healed instantly and immediately. That it just poof takes it away from them, like helping them carry their cross, so to speak. Because why not? If I can energetically heal it, why not ask for them to be energetically healed? You ask and you shall receive. So that's what I do. So that when my life split, I was zealot. I was zealously zealot for all of them evils, and I wanted to just the oppressors. But through that, I realized how I created my own prison because of what was going on inside of me. I kept allowing certain things from people pleasing and didn't want to hurt this one and didn't wanted to see the best in that one and ignore the red flags and not value in one way because of comparing it with money and whatever reason my children the way that they should have been valued, because I was overworked, underpaid, not having enough faith to let it go and trust the next thing, because something inside of me was itching to get out of myself because I needed to heal, which is what's going on the planet. People are healing. But once that realization happened, that's the kingdom is within. So when the healing takes place, we're able to shift energies inside of ourselves that allow us to be at peace on the inside. And then we understand that you reap what you sow. So you violate a natural law, you're going to get some feedback for that. And so we don't want to violate the law. We want to do the right thing. Instead of thinking, for me, it was I had my father on the throne. Hi, little crab. My father on the throne, which was a hard one for me to overcome, because I still kept thinking that God today is going to reach down and coddle me like I never got the way I was supposed to get it, and other people. But then once I started to become more mature within, and the healing started to happen, and what's considered the inner child, which is the subconscious, which to me is the heart space, when that started to heal and get rid of some of the heavy energies, my mind and my heart started to come to a balance to where I wasn't an extreme on that side or an extreme on that side. And then I wasn't looking at it zealotly. I wasn't looking at them, thank you, as some kind of a problem for in my life, because they are who they are, and they're just being their self, and they're healed or unhealed versions of self. It was how I responded to it. And in an unhealed version, I would respond to ways that wasn't conducive to growth and life to progress forward. So all of that had to be healed, and that it took sacrifice. And had I done, because I could look back and slice it and dice it all I want, had I done things differently and had more obedience than sacrifice, if I would have been more obedient, I wouldn't have had to feel like I had to sacrifice in order to feel worthy. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it was not being a zealot and being mean to people outside of me. Thank you. It was definitely being nice to myself on the inside of myself, because the kingdom is within.
Yeah. You know, my goodness. So what you shared right now just reminded me that biggest reason people reject Christ, and I'm going to say this. The number one reason is because they can't live up to the expectations, and that's where the true Christ is misunderstood. And what I mean by that is the expectations are not, they're not there really, not to the extreme where most people think. A lot of people have what I call, what others call religious trauma, and we're talking like it could be very, very serious in many cases. Um, whether it's how they identify gender wise, how they wish to um, pursue things that I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the judgment. I think it's the judgment. They feel judged. They feel locked up and chained and suppressed, and it creates a lot of emotional trauma. Christ said a tree is known by its fruits. What's a tree? The fruits are the results of having that tree as your belief system. That is what a tree is. And if you truly believe that it's okay to run around the planet and colonize other countries, how's that Christ-like? When literally Christ said, remove the log out of your own eye first before you judge others. Why are you judging your son or daughter for even maybe not wanting to follow your vision of who they are? Whether it be a course in school or gender or anything really. Where's the love? What I'm seeing is a lot of conflict, a lot of pain. And how do we overcome the generational curse of parents giving their trauma and pain off to their kids? Because that's what I see happening. Too much. Like,
Yeah.
how do we overcome that? Otherwise, it'll just keep going and going forever.
No, that's what that's that. So there was no way that I was on a roll with not having what happened to me happen to my children. And when I tell you, this is just, wow. I just say the entities that lived in other people, it was so strong in the heart and the root. And I'm going to go in this route with this, the innocence and the purity of the focus on what Christ wants and what we want for this planet to be in the good space for everybody to be happy and love. The irritability in the entities was because, unbeknownst to myself, the energies that was from that trauma was stored inside of me. So when they say that we get what we give, and what's inside of us, we attract that. If we're not conscious of it, there's like a pocket here, a pocket there, a pocket here inside of us of that negative energy that's vibrating and it's attracting. And that's when we talk about the egregores, it's in people around us. So when we talk here about they just show up, we attract, how how we talk about it here in this world, with communities, whatever. That's what that means. So I'm thinking in my conscious mind that I'm doing the best I can, and I was, and I'm still acting out some of the traumas, which is I'm reaping what I'm sowing. And other people are taking that lack of confidence that I would have in myself and for the opportunity to go harder on being evil because they were getting it out of them and they had an excuse, but it was not a good excuse. It was just trapped in a little world that they didn't even realize they were into inside of their own self until time goes by, until they have to undo it within themselves. So I think that cycle is changing right now. I think that the energies from like the times that now that the light's being shown and things that happen in the dark are coming to light, I'm pretty sure that the majority of that is past. That people are starting to talk about it more because the secrets like the incest and things and on that train of it in people's life, they didn't talk about that. But now that people are talking about it, it's starting to be aired out and people are actually unaliving. They can't handle it. They can't accept so much of the things that they did, that the grace from what the Messiah did, that we can be forgiven, because at this point in time, the stigma from people that judge the people that did that, because who doesn't judge people who did that to a child harshly? It's wrong. They shouldn't do that to a child. But if we're practicing and we got to forgive, because as a victim, I had to forgive the perpetrator. I had to, or I couldn't live inside of myself. And then that puts me on the side of being disobedient to the creator and the natural law of allowing love to flow and being forgiving. So here's a victim having to forgive, but here's these people who want to judge the act of somebody that did something horrible to somebody else, probably out of their own womb because something probably happened to them. That keeps that sickness going. And I call them the cookie cutters, the do-gooders, and the ones that, they don't have a clue what it's like to have gone through that and have to forgive. So they're keeping the evil alive by judging something they don't know anything about. So there's two sides to that.
Wow, I don't want to lose all my followers tonight, but how often really, who's keeping that pain and trauma alive if it's not us? I mean, the act is over.
Yep.
Uh, we need to keep either fueling that energy or reigniting it, even just by thinking about it. I can't say I blame anyone who may be stuck in that loop, which could be a lifetime. But what do you do with that energy? Is it really an energy that is still from the time, the moment it happened, or is it something that you've created over and over and over again within yourself? Um, I don't know, Tina. It's not. That's a hard one. That really is hard because I'll if I ever come across anyone like that, I don't like that. I'll come back and live an incarnation as a frog to pay for my reaction to that. I don't think I would do too well. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It really is. And then when we see the evidence of what happens to our children, because somebody like that will do something to them, and we know that if we unalive them, we'll be in prison. Yeah. So it is a tough one. And it is for us to stand in energetically, but that's how that cycle keeps, excuse me, that's how that excuse me, that's how that cycle keeps going. Because then it happens to the child, and then the child has that feeling inside that they weren't protected, that they weren't kept safe. So then they have that thing against the parent, and then the parent and child are going back and forth energetically, trying to heal, because love within between the two of them hurts. They don't know how to get past the hurt that was put in place in between the two of them, and that's how the cycle keeps perpetuating. So it takes somebody to say they putting a stick in the spoke, which in my case is me and my family. And my children are well aware of it. They know how to heal. They know how to stay focused. They know how to take care of their bodies. They believe in the creator. They are aware of natural laws. And it took a lot of diligence for that to happen. They're forgiving, but they're not tolerant of, if they see it in somebody and they're doing it, they're not going to allow that shit. So that's a start in breaking the generational curse, even though it's, I got children that are 30 years old. I still got a 16-year-old, and everybody's on board.
What I'm getting from you is you've got this and you're teaching them well. And as a matter of fact, you've probably taken a hit to stop this, the transfer of the generational curse you're talking about. Quite honestly, I think original sin. There's another one. What is original sin? Is it not just the lost ways of this world that we get indoctrinated with? It's almost like an initiation rite. Okay, welcome to Earth. Here's your pain. Start. Go. Game on.
It does feel like that. And that's why I was saying that what if we are the ones? Because I kind of do think that say, okay, that because I picture it like here's a little human, here's the fallen angel energies of they're going to try to make us do the other, but it's really just our dark side. But we have to have our faith and believe that the creator. But then when we think, oh, how could our loving creator have his son sacrificed in such a horrible manner? How are we supposed to, especially when my parents were so mean and it was horrible? Like, that's a lot of twistation in the head zone, to wrap oneself around. But going through it and knowing how when the rubber meets the road and it's real serious, like you're inside of yourself and you're in the dark space and you have to sort it out in your conscious awareness and then weigh it out with what's going on in reality and place it like it's fun. It's fun. It's a high honor. You know it. You've been through it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So this all this work we're talking about, like, some people might think, well, okay, so what's the big deal? Some people are in a church and they're praying and they're no, but it manifests out and it grows and there's ripple effects and very real practical harm is being done. So we talked. You mentioned the word egregores. That is a thought form. It's an energetic entity that has been created by the thoughts of many. Like Santa Claus, there's an example, is an egregore, just a silly example. But man, when I was a kid, I believed it. I did until I was in. I remember it was grade one, however old you are, and I heard some kids, some classmates talking about it. I'm like, I went home. I was livid. I went to my mom and I said, "You tell me Santa Claus is not real?" And then she told me the whole truth. And so, what does that do? That teaches me that other people will lie to me, and it creates a trust issue. That's how it really manifests. Those are the what appears harmless is actually very, very harmful. It really is. However innocent it may appear.
You asked that question before too. I wasn't on the panel, but I was listening in. And that was one of the things that I said, always be honest. I remember that. And that about religion. So that's another thing that I know is happening on planet Earth with religion right now is that's all being undone. So the Babylon the Great, so to speak, is the false religions teaching the law, non forgiveness, judgment. But the real kicker for me that they all teach is that you're going to perish. You're going to, in order to get to heaven, or if you're not good enough and you can't accept it enough and can't believe enough, to hell. And then I realized that that is within because I was living in a hell and I was taught by every religion, and I say every, that's an exaggeration. Many religions. I wrote a movie about it, okay? It's funny, but I searched for God through the mainstream religions for sure. And I found wheat and tear. You said this a while ago. I found, you didn't use these words, but wheat and tears in everybody, in every religion. And the common theme that they all had was that they teach there will be an unaliving. And that is not what the Messiah taught. He taught that his unaliving was the last unaliving that needed to happen because we would then have the spirit able to live inside of us. And then here we go, let's switch a gear to science. that says our bodies are not designed to perish. Then let's switch another gear to literature. The literature says when you think, what you think grows. So if I'm thinking I only get 70, 80 years, if I'm thinking that I'm sometime in the back of my mind playing with my coffin going, am I going to get cremated? Like, if I'm thinking that because I was taught that, which is the generational part of this generational curse breaking system, what I found is that I was so miserable inside of myself that secretly I wanted to unalive. It was too hard to think about living, because if I thought about living, especially for eternity, and had anything I regretted in my mind that I couldn't let go of, I would have to live with that for eternity, which told me I was in hell. That's why healing is heaven.
I think. Okay, okay. I love where we're going now. Now we're getting hot and cold here. Let's do this. Literally. So, heaven and hell. Let's talk about that. Um, why does it have to be either one in another place? I mean, Christ came here. He didn't wait for us to unalive and spoke to us as soon as we popped out of our bodies. No, he came here, meaning this life matters. This now matters. And what matters about it is that we learn to overcome our fears, whether legitimate or not, overcome them, real or imagined, overcome your fears. When that happens, you realize that, you know, this is not just a waiting station where we're all waiting to, okay, when is it over? Boom, what's going to happen next? We are creating, we are learning to co-create. We have that power, the manifestation. Our actions, our words, our thoughts are so important, but not to the point where it's life or unalivement. And you know, I just think that what's happening now, what we're seeing happen, um, and it's spreading, is that people are waking up to the possibility and the reality that much of what we've been told is not real. And so they're looking within. You know, they are. People will pull back. They'll have isolation from time to time. They'll reflect, and this is all good. Why is it good? Because you are now looking at, what do I believe? What have I emotionally charged in my thought system? And how is that affecting my relationships and my entire life here and now? Because here and now matters. That's where life is. Life only exists in the present moment. And the fact that we are here speaking right now, it is not about something that is going to happen later. It is about what's happening to us now. Now, having said that, does hell exist? It can, if you want to create it. Like you said, you can create your own. And what is heaven then? You know, Christ only spoke in metaphors. Everything he spoke about was about our understanding of ourselves. Ultimately, that's what it is. And when we begin to let go of all these other distractions, I'm going to call them, what are we left with? You can only look at yourself. And then ultimately, maybe you can learn to love yourself. And when we learn to love ourselves, we then can spread that love to others. Until that happens, we're not going to change anything of the pain and suffering that we see in this world. It has to happen one person at a time, and each person has to be responsible for their own transcendence, so to speak. That's what ascension is to me.
I totally agree. The I love you, love the Lord. This is what I say. I've read the Bible a lot, but this is what, if you want to read the Bible in 10 seconds, love the Lord your God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole soul, your whole strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself, okay? as thyself. So for me to love someone else, myself has to love myself. And that is what, when we think we're at a level and we're giving out stuff, but we know that we're still feeling a little irritable and it's not coming out exactly right. We don't feel like we're in full alignment and we're still living in the past or the future or somewhere else. That's not allowing the fluency of love to go through us. And if our mind is stayed on, my daughter's back with the dog. She's finally back in town too, out with the dogs. Hello. Is that when our mind is focused on what is good, what is right, what is true, what is pure. So this is just tools, okay? Whenever I have anything come up from the past or a fear of something in the future, I go to my center point and I say, this is what I say. I say, God is love, 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 God is love. My brain will only say that, my conscious awareness. But then I come to realize there's three for sure energetic systems. So I have that one little point that says God is love, God is love, God is love. But there's another side that's pulsating another thought of sorts. And then there's another aspect of myself that's got another part of the dialogue going. So that's when because I'm putting a lot of fragmentation back together as whole, but I was fragmented to be able to articulate this for others who have gone through this and are putting it back together. But that one little saying to concentrate on what is true, that keeps my mind off of allowing the energy from the feelings of the pulsations and what's coming out of my nervous system from my heart to send the energy of the thought, God is love, not what the fuck did I do that for? What kind of regret is that? Or what did they do that? None of that. And that's to keep the thoughts on what is good, what is right, what is pure. That is love the Lord your God with your whole heart. That's what's coming up. That's what's being healed. Your whole mind, which is thinking about it. And your whole, soul? That's everything. That's your existence in your incarnate form, your human form. What makes us human. So that's what I do. That's what I keep my thoughts on.
Yeah, I love that. And now, Christ said, love your enemies, because it's easy to love your friends and people you get along with. But if you love your enemies, what does that mean? You now have no enemies. And you only have love within yourself and around you.
That's intense. So I would love to go into that one. This might help me some too. So I considered myself my enemy. And just that said, with like attracting people that still do things to me, or speaking for myself, then there's something in me that's doing that. So that's more work, more undoing, an opportunity when somebody triggers. I know that's that word you like so much. I use that for an opportunity to say, what is it in me that's finding that irritable or whatever. So then there's another level to this thing. Because if you're dealing with people that are not, or when dealing with people, and prayerfully that's going to go away. So wordage is important here. If dealing with someone who is not healed and they're bringing an unsafe dynamic in one's energy space, there is a such thing as putting a boundary up and not allowing them in your space. That is a real thing.
Absolutely. Yes. Boundaries are very important. Yes. I agree with that. Now, boundaries can become barriers, meaning it stops you from growing, because we do have to have interactions with others. Um, I've been accused of being all love and light. What's wrong with that?
Agreed.
Right? But
Agreed.
but the assumption is that I've suppressed a dark side of me. Okay, let's talk about that. I know if Azrael is still in here, he'll know he's seen my dark side a couple of times.
Everybody got a dark side.
What I'm saying is it dark though? Or is it enforcing your boundaries that you've established? See, you can set up boundaries, but now we have to enforce them, right? But can we do it with anger and hate? Or can we do it calmly out of love. Because everybody knows my boundaries are enforced. Yet I'm accused of being all love and light. Well, so be it. Doesn't mean I'm ignoring any other aspect of myself.
Yeah, we balanced. You're using that for power to execute good. Is that word supposed to be used? So, okay. Oh, there was another aspect of that is, oh, okay. This is the way I see it. I am I'm love and light. Like I always want to be love and light. And I'm doing that. And so the separation of how dark it was in that spot, that's why I say everybody got that side. I why would I want that to come out no matter who I'm dealing with or whatever, because I know what I'm capable of on that side. So in what you said and what I said about using it for power, that is an opening to be able to see. That's like a file cabinet, if you will, for me, with the dark information that says, oh, I can recognize that behavior. This is my expertise. I can recognize that behavior that's coming from that human being, and this is probably how this trails off to this part of a trauma. When I get that sorted out, then I go into spirit and begin standing in for that person. So that's how I don't react, overreact, blah, blah, blah. But if they come into my space now, there's a such thing as ghetto fabulous. But that's not usual because I would rather walk away or step away or just don't even give it any attention. And that has been one of the hardest things for me because if I don't give it attention, they get worse. So I'm going to just mention it. I don't just block somebody. I used to. They used to come at me. But I don't do that because I learned that when I make a decision to block somebody, I have exhausted every single thing that I can do inside of me and given them the opportunity to come to the table different and a more healed version of themselves so that I'm not feeling hurt by them. That's when that happens. If somebody blocks me, it could be for any reason, but to me, if they put up that boundary, it is a gift. When they put up that boundary with me and they don't want to figure out how to work that out because I am that person that I'm easygoing, like I love everybody. That is not my issue. That's their issue. And that they need to work on that. So I don't have a problem with the block system when necessary.
Well, Tina, I'm with you. Christ said, turn the other cheek, including my butt. I've got four cheeks, and that's all I got.
Stop it.
Okay, so I'm sorry. But what I
I
mean
heard
is
that.
eventually, yeah, you have to pull yourself out. And so I blocked a few people only because they threatened what I was doing with the lives. And if I find out someone has blocked me, I return the favor if possible. Apparently, you can't do that anymore on this app. If you get blocked first, you're screwed because you can't find them anymore. So, yeah, we have to protect ourselves too. Compassion is important. But what about compassion for self? So that's the fine line where you can't allow people to step all over you. Then you don't have compassion for yourself. You don't have the self love. I'm just saying, like Gandhi was able to, free India from British rule without firing a single pew pew. And to me, that is what we should all strive for. Anything less than that means we have not found that higher self solution to it. And then again, all I can offer is love, understanding, an ear. Let's talk it out. And if they're not willing to do that, and they keep coming at me, like you said, eventually you have to do something about that, and then just wish them the best. But I do not want to carry um, hate for anyone because then that hate exists within me. And I love myself too much to allow that to reside within me, right?
And that's aggravating to people. That irritates people.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah. And I know this because I remember being the person that did not feel that way about myself. And when I met somebody that genuinely really loved themselves, they seemed selfish. They seemed like they was thought they was better and all of that stuff. But that really wasn't true. That was my perception because they didn't have it bad, because they had it good, because they weren't making decisions, and it I felt in is I guess the word inferior. I don't know if I'm using that word right, against, up next to them. And so it took time, it took maturing, it took working on it to start to say, because I would say that, well, why, well, I want to feel like that about myself, where I can take my own self and protect my own self. And that way, if somebody else is going through something, that their wounds don't hurt me. So through what they did to me in that's how I took that for self and worked through it myself, so that myself was healed, and that if somebody else came up that wasn't healed and they did that to me and felt if I'm using the word right, inferior to me, that of course I could pray and stand in for them, but that they would get it and know that that's not really true. I'm having to value myself because I wasn't valued, and I had to learn how to value myself. And so that's what I'm doing now. It's not against anybody. I want, because of the hell, I don't want anyone to suffer, and I want them to value themselves. But Tina, had to learn that. I wasn't raised with that. I wasn't taught that. In fact, I was severely abused. So that's why now it's a conscious choice. When I meet anyone, it's a conscious choice. And it's like the spidey senses go off in that dark side world to glean, and then the behaviors, because I had to study it so much to heal from my own stuff, that I can spot them behaviors like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and some of them are clever. Some of them will sneak in and get you by surprise, so to speak, and that's okay because you know. So we're talking about the true Christ and the four agreements. I honestly think Christ would say, "Yep, that's a good start." Be impeccable with your word. I'm gonna say it all in different order, but be impeccable with your word because words matter. He even spoke on that. Um, don't take anything personally, right? Uh, a lot of times people come at us. Like someone will come at you, Tina. That's a reflection on them. That's where they're at. That's what, we all need to understand. If someone's coming at me, I'm going to say, okay, first I got to find out I'm sorry, did I do something to cause this? But I'm going to give it time to look and realize that, first of all, especially when it's a heated reaction, that's a reflection of where they're at. That's a reflection on them. Doesn't define me. The other ones, of course, are what? Someone help me out here. I forgot them. Okay. Be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personally. Always do your best. I mean, that's a great start. Christ said what? You can't bring a camel through the eye of a needle. That is, you cannot bring your lower self into the higher spiritual self. It's just not going to, but people try. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people trying to hold on and ascend. And they're trying to bring their, 8 suitcases and car and house with them. It's not going to happen. That's a metaphor for not letting go of the pain and the trauma, and this need to balance the scales. The balancing of the scales will happen when you let go. You got to trust the universe and understand that in doing so, there are quote, rewards coming your way for doing so. It's just a leap of faith, literally, and not religiously.
What about letting go? Like, what? Okay, I've been working on that for a long time, and I'm getting like, it's almost like I'm just still feeling around about it that I can't say, oh, I have learned to let go. How would you articulate for someone to just like maybe at this phase of it to learn how to just let it go? What does that mean? Let it go.
Well, letting it go for me, what that meant was, I remember at a time just before I had many unexplained spiritual experiences, or what people call, the big awakening, which was half a lifetime ago. Before that, it was easy because I was pretty down and out, and I had given up on myself trying to get out of whatever place I was in, and I didn't even fully understand it. A lot of it was just bad energy that was attached to me, and it was causing anxiety, panic attacks, a lot of stress. And then one night, I guess someone from my spiritual team decided, okay, we got to give this guy a little reset. And I had an experience where I was in bed falling asleep, and I heard in my, not from in my mind, but outside my head, I heard, let it go, but loud and clear, as if someone was there. Like, you ever, like, you're falling asleep, you ever open your eyes without opening your eyelids? If that makes sense. Like, try to
I'm
connect,
gonna have to notice that from now on.
right? Okay. So as soon as I heard that, that was my reaction. And I just, for something inside me just told me to trust it. And I felt electricity from the top of my head go down my body to my toes. It was like a ray of light of about 3 inches wide across my body, like almost like a lightsaber. Okay, I'm trying to give visuals here. And then back up again. And that took about 5 seconds. And that was it. And the next day I started coming across synchronicities. I started coming across things that were guiding me to read uh, messages that were coming even from commercials that just jumped out at me and uh, would guide me. And then it guided me to this one lady who was a Reiki master. And then she performed uh, Reiki healing on me, started doing guided meditation with her. And then boom, uh, the portals opened and I had so many experiences, and then I was on my way after that. That allowed me to let go. And what letting go was, we hold on to this pain because we honestly believe it's part of us. Subconsciously, we just believe that it is who we are. So we hold on to it. We carry it. And it's destroying us. It's the negative energy that really does a lot of harm. And it's failure to just surrender all of that, knowing that it's not really up to you to balance the scales. I'm going to go back to that. I think there's this need where we feel like we have to stand up for ourselves and fight, and all we're doing is digging a hole deeper, right? To me, letting go is like giving yourself a fresh start, forgiving others and forgiving yourself. And then you open yourself up to the gifts of the present, pardon the pun.
I like puns. Okay. So inside of where all of the neuropathways are releasing the thought processes, and then the pivot for me with the letting go thing was of course fear. But what is next? Because anytime in my life it got good to any degree, that they call it waiting for the next shoe to drop, it's a real thing. that was one of my biggest prayers. Okay, help me to, will you please help me to not think that something bad is going to happen when things get good. So that was a focus. So I was practicing letting go of that old thought process of PTSD, that if I got the feeling inside of myself that things feel good, the next thing's going to drop. It's going to happen. And
Then you haven't let go of that fear that you're not deserving of good things happening to you.
that's the one. That's the
Hmm.
one. So in that, with the God is love, God is love, God is love, the other side, when that feeling was coming through, I would say, I am worthy. And when I would say I am worthy, I got the sickest feeling in the pit of my stomach. Like it took a lot. And that was what I'm talking about, letting go in little increments. I just kept telling myself, just keep saying it. And I would say on the other side, I would say, no matter how I feel. That's why I say never is God's word. He'll never leave you nor forsake you, because you're supposed to never say never. That's why I would say no matter how I feel, that doesn't change the reality that the universe is for me, that this is happening for me. It's just the inside of me has this fear attached to a train of thought that was from my neurological system my whole life, because that's the way I was trained in my heart space, which is happening to people on the planet that are having to undo this. This is how. So all of those systems were saying that, and then the fourth part, because there's a fourth part to those sections inside of self, and it says I am safe. So I say God is love, God is love, God is love. I am safe, but I'm tensed up on the inside, and then I start to tell myself consciously, let go, just let go and breathe. And so then start to say, okay, I'm going to breathe. And that's how all of these pieces, parts started to clear from the heart space and the brain and then the neuro pathways within, to uproot the systems that were in the heart space from the root chakra, that then spread to the reproduction section, because that's where the trauma for me was, and then so on and so forth, because then that distorts what's going on with you when your third eye is litty, because but your crown is shut down because you're made to feel like you're no good. That feeling of saying I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy, was incrementally letting go of the feeling, while the feeling was coming to a balance of in agreement with I am worthy. All of that.
So I did affirmations, and like I said, I had the fortune of some amazing people coming into my life. I mean, I had Bob Proctor for 5 days in the place I worked because his son worked for the same company. Bob Proctor was more than just a motivational speaker. I understand that now. And it was him, it was others that taught the power of the subconscious mind, reprogramming, affirmations. So affirmations work. They do. But we can overdo it. And if we continue those affirmations, what we're telling the universe is we still haven't let go. I no longer need affirmations. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense,
Absolutely makes sense.
right? Because if I'm
Yes.
telling the universe every day for 20 years, I am worthy, the universe is going to say, well, haven't you figured that out yet? Why are you still saying that? You're obviously still doubting it. You need to say it. At some point, we need to even let go of the positive affirmations and the shadow work for that matter. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll have to
Yeah.
find a way to better present that
No,
concept.
that's perfect, because this is, because yes, it's perfect. And furthering is the seasons in the healing cycle. So I would have a season of something that I knew was on the forefront to be worked on, and I would create my environment and such around the biggest hurdle of what I knew was happening inside of myself. And of course, the universe is on board. Okay, well, leading the show when I wasn't trying to lead the show, and I would know when the season was coming to another point to switch it around. So, for example, I would put on my, I got six phones. No, I definitely got three. One would be playing the Bible. One would be playing Pluto. One would be playing the heart chakra. Another would be playing the Hertz. And the universe would have the power shut off. One of them would go. The battery would run dead or something, or somehow or another the internet would disconnect, and it would just be silence. So that's complete trust. I know that's like miracle stuff, but it does happen in my life that way. But at the same time, this season that I'm going into now is exactly what you just said. So instead of taking my phone outside while I'm listening to Jessica Heslop morning gratitude affirmations, I will go out there with no phone and sit with the grass and listen to the birds, because I'm not doing what you said at this in this season now. So to practice the balance of, these affirmations have been said, they've been programmed for this amount of time. This is the area I've been working on. Now it's time to rest and hear my thoughts as a result of these affirmations to see, since that's cleared, is there anything else coming up for healing at this point? And then the cycle will start over. So yes, that makes perfect sense. And I love the way you said it.
I also want to add those affirmations of what are really should be our birthright, what we should be born into knowing.
Yep.
Once you've done that for, I mean, even just 3 months, honestly, if you do it regularly, it then needs to evolve. Otherwise, you stay stuck there. Mine evolved into an affirmation, the only affirmation: I am grateful.
Yep.
That's it. That's all my only affirmation. I started every morning and before I go to bed. I am grateful. I give thanks because I realize that I am in a position now where the living truth is flowing through me and I'm connected to it on a daily basis. I'm not waiting for it to come. I'm not looking back in the past and wishing it was still here. No, it is here infinitely, always. Why? Because I did the work of surrendering, letting go. But now, guess what? I have to maintain that. I call it my spiritual sweet spot. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to end up where I was by not honoring those qualities that will help me stay where I'm at. And that is love, compassion, kindness, love, and light. Hello, everyone.
Hello. What I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was just there about that, about the love and light. Oh yeah. Okay. So while this process has been happening in this healing journey, that's it. That's what I say. They'll be talking. I'll say it out loud no matter where I'm at. If it's necessary. I have nothing to say but thank you. I'll say it all day long. They'd be talking. I have nothing to say but thank you. Thank you, Father. That's it. All
Yeah.
day.
I just want to say to Jenny Lane in the comments, yeah, that's a good point, Jenny. Except now that affirmation of I am grateful, it's not for me. It's for source.
I love that you said that too, because that's one thing I'm pivoting to now is, well, I went through the sad part about it. Why I got to do all this work? Why can't I just have the knowing? But I understand why. I know that. I'm just, being exaggeratory. But that's the goal, is in the switch to that, is to get to the point of just knowing, just being, and it's actually happening, because it's just, we are love.
Sometimes I want to, I boxed for about 4 years.
My son's a boxer. What division?
Middleweight, I was.
He's lightweight.
I was a teenager, like late teens.
He's early 20s.
Yep. Yep.
Heck,
But you know what that taught me? You know, until you do it, you don't realize the physical discipline needed, the mental discipline needed. It's not just a bunch of thugs throwing punches at each other. It is highly disciplined. And yeah, everything contributed to where I'm at today. Now, where I'm at today, I have to admit, I still have work to do because there are sometimes situations that I need to pull back because I know I'm not ready to handle it. In other words, when things can get heated at times, and it's happened here, I tend to stay quiet and I tend to need a little too much time to remind myself of not, um, how can I say this, of not being pulled back to a place I don't want to be. So that concerns me, the fact that I have to consciously remind myself of it. That means there's a part of me still that wants to engage. I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah. I'm an assassin in the spirit world. I feel that all the time. I'm like, I had to pray and ask that my desire to be kind override my desire to do my job right in that way. I know it's horrible. I can't believe I said that out loud.
That's Jenny's got it. I don't do well in those lives where you're unmuted and I gotta like jump in and speak. Yeah, I'm working on it, Jenny. That's
What'd she
funny.
say? What'd she say? Ballet too takes a lot of mental. Yeah, lots of people talking. I guess I missed it. How would you know unless you felt it? Otherwise known as my lives. That's why I have fun. That's recess. So okay, one more.
That's a recess in my brain and heart.
You have fun. You
They
have
always,
fun. I know you have fun when you're out there.
oh man, they always get out of control, but it's all good.
um. So I should just say it. All right. Is there a thing? Okay. How? Let's look at it at this angle. When you know,
I
because I
want
know
you to
you know.
hold on. I want you to say it. I can feel it. It's good. Don't worry, I can take it. I'm built for it.
When you know that there's different levels of animosity behind the scenes that don't get said out loud for whatever reason, do you think about that when the live shuts down? Do you like go, oh, because I know I stand in prayer. Like I stand in when I can feel those energies. And then I know that there's like some, because people can say, this person ought to be doing this that way and ought to be doing this that way with the energies that are gleaned and seen. But what's your angle on that?
Okay, so you mean when 1,000 people peek into my lives and I'm looking at about the 40 or 50 that are there, um, and I don't know always their true intentions, but I try to keep following the comments. I want to make sure that there's no drama going on. It's unavoidable. I can't control it all. There's other groups, other live hosts that, for whatever reason, you know, that's them. That's for them. It's not for me. I have to be true to myself. So how I handle it all is, I can't control other people. None of us can. Nor should we try. Like you said, you can bring a horse to water. You can't make them drink. If you're forcing them to drink, you're drowning them. So we're not going to do that. All you can do is share with this world that which you have found to be true to yourself. And those who resonate with it will come around. And others will come for different reasons. And then they will try to discredit it because it doesn't align with where they're at. And that's okay. We're not going to have, like, everybody fully united. Everybody talks about this world ascending. Yeah, sure, everybody's waking up, but does that mean we're all going to agree? I think the only thing we have to agree on is that we should respect each other when we disagree. To me, I can't worry about what's going on behind the scenes. I care for everyone, but I can only focus on those who are directly with me. And if anybody ever reached out to me, I, even though I may be missing a lot of messages, I'm trying my best. Those who reach out to me, I try to be there for them because I genuinely care. But if there are discussions going on without my knowing, then that's not for me. Yeah. We can't worry about everything, you know.
I like that. So, what about the true Christ at this point in the game? Because I'm gonna tell you why I say this. Because this is dark, deep, the worst. But when we look at, we can go all the way to the love and light, and that all of what we just talked about is somewhere in the middle of this. I knew that if I acted on my anger and what I wanted to do to those people about what the injustice that they did to my life, I knew that I would have repercussions, but I knew that I knew that I knew that I would be forgiven. Okay, that said,
Now, hold on a sec. Are you sure? No, I'm
yes,
going to challenge it. Not because I don't know the details, but
because I would have served my punishment in certain types of ways, but if I had to look at my life without my children and the time that was lost because of what evil did, it would be that, you know how I talk about that 51%, 49%?
I love it. That's all
That's
we
the
need.
one.
You only
That's
need
the one.
51%. Okay.
The 51% said, I don't want to be, I want to be free. Let's put it that way. I,
You can cross the English Channel 51% above water. That's all you need. You can swim.
okay.
You get your air. That's all we need.
There you go.
You know
So,
what? I want to talk about something you said about being punished, if I may.
okay.
I think it's important, and I'm gonna just go to the other Christ consciousness called the Buddha for this one. And there's actually many similarities between what Christ taught and what the Buddha taught. Not about the. Never mind. Okay, let's just focus on what is the same. And the Buddha said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." There's an energetic. We create an energy in order to be hateful towards another person. You cannot dish it out without holding on to some of it yourself. So it's like trying to drink poison to unalive another person. You're drinking it yourself. That it's impossible to. So in other words, what I'm saying is have a different. When you're feeling anger, and we all feel anger, it's a normal, natural response. I call them all the emotions. I call them guides, and so it's guiding you to perhaps either reflect on something to understand it better or act a certain way. Uh, Never act out without pause. That's what helps me. It's impossible to, in the moment, you know, have a higher thought. So let it pass, let it settle, make it your friend because anger is your friend, and understand that it's telling you and showing you something, and it's there for a reason. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a book on anger. It's an amazing book, and to me, it is about controlling our reactions when I'll say it, when we're tested, right? And when are we tested? We're tested in the moment when we don't expect it. It just shows up, and now it's like, okay, how are you going to react to this? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly true. So, since the sword, Christ came with the sword to bring the sword, how does that relate to what talking about people doing things to people unnecessarily? And how am I saying this? To, it's never really, it's just discipline, really. Because what I was saying about people coming into places and being mean to other people and knowing what they're going through and hearing it and then staying on their trail of things, when does it come time to put the stick in their spoke because you love them and say, no, 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 no. You're not going to behave like that. Just let them. It's like letting a child have a temper tantrum. Just let them have a temper tantrum. Just watch them do it. Like, don't try to teach them anything.
Is that child having a temper tantrum?
Something they
Were
got.
they disciplined?
Wait, say that again.
Were they disciplined?
That's
See, people see discipline. It's been stigmatized. There's absolutely nothing wrong with discipline. As a matter of fact, in my opinion,
I love it.
discipline is a must,
Agreed.
right? And my dad taught me that. The bad way, but he taught me that. I still love him for it. And it's the best way he knew at the time. Uh, my point is that are we, um, do we feel like as parents that we need to allow our kids to be discipline free and that's a form of love? Is it really love? Because what is love? Love is preparing someone for what's ahead, in my opinion. So at some point, in a healthy manner, I'm not talking about physical violence or physical or emotional abuse. No, that's not discipline because then you lack discipline as a parent if you're doing it that way.
Mhm.
It is showing them that yeah, there are some limits and preparing them for the world out there that's going to treat them without regard of who they are. And if that can't be taught in a household, then I don't think we're doing our duty to them and helping them prepare. You know, and then we can go too far with that discipline. Of course, healthy discipline is what I'm talking about.
Okay, and so switching that to what we're dealing with in lives in this community today, like up until today, that is happening. Just, I know you have a very intense passion for doing the right thing. Let's get that off the table. Okay, that's good. And then I've seen people come in and I feel they're being a certain innocent type of way, and then I see people come in just, and I watch how you handle that kind of stuff, and that's why I was just wondering because like it's got to be annoying to.
So, if I'm understanding it right, I think I let people be themselves. That's important. If it's coming across in a harmful way for themselves or others, then I just kind of step in and try to not dishonor where they're at, but just in a way. I've been told I have a way of shifting energies,
I
if
was gonna
that
say
makes
neutralizing.
sense. Yeah. Maybe it's because I coached girls soccer for 12 years, dealing with
That
parents.
helps.
Oh my goodness, that taught me a lot. Uh,
I like that.
if you come
Okay.
from a place of love and you want to see the best for the person you're interacting with, I think the answers they come on their own, and you just know exactly what to do. To me, it's almost like I don't need to know how my car runs. I just want to know how to drive it. Like I don't want to be a mechanic. I don't want to know the ins and outs of the pistons and the spark plugs and everything else. But I want to learn how to steer the car, accelerate, brake accordingly, and be a good driver. Maybe that makes it easier to regulate others. And I don't mean regulate others, but hey, I've met people that shift me beautifully when needed. They even, you know, they even put a fire under my ass when I need it. But no, it really does come down to, for me, I was given a second chance in this life by something other than myself, a force that for me was that which created me and you and everyone else. And how can you not have respect for everybody, no matter where they're at? Because I was given that opportunity. I don't want to disrespect it by not giving it to others.
That's genuine. Well, anything else about the true Christ to tie all that in together?
Well, the true Christ was an amazing dude. He cared about humanity, and there are many others that were not even written about that came along as well. Uh, in my opinion, we all have that. It's happening now. We all have that within us, and what I mean by it is exactly something that you don't have to read about in a book. You don't have to research that much. I mean, if anything, and I've said this many times, the spiritual journey to me is about letting go of what you're not, because we don't have to learn who we are. We already know. We just have to move the noise, the debris that's in the way, and allow it to come up to our consciousness. And it will guide you, and you'll know exactly what to do. To me, that's what Christ was. That's what he was teaching. When he said, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I don't want to butcher it, but something along the lines of tomorrow will take care of itself.
Okay.
Right? Something like that. It's because we can only focus on the present moment. And when we're in the present moment, we realize that, we're not creating a future that is going to be filled with anxiety because of worries. And we're not carrying the past into our present, which creates a loop again into the future, and we become stuck. And when you're in the present moment, to me, and I'm going to say it because it hasn't come up yet tonight, but meditation is so underestimated. And I'm talking about the deep meditation where you go into meditation, you lock your door for real, so the dog doesn't barge in and give you a heart attack when you're in the middle of it, or your kids, or you tell everybody in the house, hey, I need half an hour to myself, even if you're only going to meditate for 15 or 20 minutes. Find yourself a quiet spot where you can truly just let go, not fall asleep either. There's that sweet spot again, right in between being awake and being asleep. And when you go in with no expectations and you trust that you are going to be given whatever you need, even without asking for it. Don't go in with any preconceived, don't go in with a list of questions. That's not meditation. That's self-reflection. Meditation is just going in, being still, focusing on the nothing until the something appears. And you will have experiences, you will have understanding. And energetically, that allows your higher self to regulate your entire being, the chakras, all of it. I mean, these things are real. The Bible talks about the 7 seals. that Christ broke open the seven seals, those are the seven main chakras. He meditated daily. He taught others to meditate. You can have healing powers. You can have prophecy, insights. It's all there for us, whoever wants it. And not everybody wants it, and that's okay. Not everybody, it's not meant for everyone. But those who are here in these lives, I know, I can see it. Ultimately, it's not about, quote, saving the world. It's about saving yourself. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's the
That's
kicker.
that's
What
how
you
I see it.
just said. That is everything what you just said about it. So not everyone wants it. And when I was trying to ask the question about what I was saying, all of that long-winded stuff earlier, that's what I was basically saying. Christ came to bring the sword. That's what we sifting and sorting and figuring this thing out. And like, how do you know the ones that don't want it? And I'm just like, just asking us, like, I'll say rhetorical, but you can tell. I can tell. I'll speak for myself. And it's not that they don't want it to live life, to be happy, to be joyful, but there's some form of, which is fear underneath it, of some sort of thing. It doesn't disqualify that they want it. It's just, if it's skewed, in my opinion, my truth, because this is crazy what I'm about to say. My truth is my truth, but I feel like my truth is true, is the truth. Then I hear people say their truth is the truth and true, which it leads me to the other part about, what if there are the species for one line of, you ever seen the movie 10,000 BC or something?
I I don't think I did. I can't say. I don't remember it if I did.
It's a group of different tribes, if you will, and they all want love, they all want that, but they got a mission. They're on a mission, and I'm just, that's a mild summary.
Okay, I'm going to give you an exclusive. You want my mission?
Okay.
I'm not going to hold back anymore.
All right.
Okay. It's called unaliving egregore, false egregores.
Boom.
Okay? And that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been told to do. Is to come here and remove the scales from people's eyes. What other metaphors would you like me to use? I'm just here sharing what I know. And what I know is the truth. Not telling you what you're going to find. I'm telling you what to let go of. In a way, there, you know, people are stuck in not being able to let go of these false beliefs because they don't know what to expect. They're scared. It's called the comfort zone. And the comfort zone isn't always a healthy place, but it's comfortable because it's familiar. And so how do we get that courage to truly let go? You're going to feel empty for a little while. Dark Night of the Soul. We did Spiritual Alchemy. Azrael's hosted a live on it too. And the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy, to me, outline everybody's individual path. It doesn't tell them what they're going to find, but it tells them what they're going through. If anybody tells you this is who you are, shut them down right away.
Mm.
But if they tell you this is how you can find out who you are, maybe listen. Yeah, big difference.
Yeah. Well, I have to agree on all that. And I love the letting go. That's what letting go means. Of all the things that were inputted that are not ours, that we know are not ours intuitively, and we're letting that go. I love it. Unpacking it.
Okay,
Well,
turn your screen recorders off. The exclusive's over. Hey, Tina, I just wanted to say I really want to thank you for, not that I'm leaving. I mean, it's up to you whenever you want to go. But I want to thank you for, first of all, considering me even of any slightest of interest to be here and to have me, for this entire life. And I see you in the comments. And my question to you is, why don't you speak more, if I may ask? Because I would love to hear your perspective.
Because when I was speaking in the beginning, I speak from my heart of where I am in the now moment, and it was very dark, and I felt it met with cringe because, and it was met with outward opposition, and I was labeled. I think I actually got them to create the label trauma dumping from me, but I'll just say that for myself. I don't know if it's true, but it seemed to come around when I was trauma dumping.
So you know what I think? I think complaining about trauma dumping is trauma dumping,
I know, I feel that too.
right? I don't understand exactly what it is. I do understand that if I'm hearing the same thing over and over again, I try my best to, with respect and with care, help them realize that. But how do you do that when you have a room full of people? You don't want to really call them out. So I've reached out personally sometimes to some people. Trauma dumping, yes, it's not healthy because it's a loop, which all they're doing is solidifying in concrete where they're at, which is not necessarily a healthy place. However, if someone is talking about pain, that's not trauma dumping. No, people need to talk their way through it. Are we not compassionate spiritual people? Is this not what we're here claiming to be? Then where is that patience and compassion for others when they need it?
That's it. And sometimes people will get into where they are beating their self against a wall. They show up on a panel and they are reaching out for anybody to listen, and they are beating their self against a wall. They're internally inside of themselves. They have their little inner child locked in a closet somewhere, and they're beating it, and they're trying to get anyone to listen to any degree to lessen that pain and say, you can stop beating on yourself right now. But when somebody says, that's enough, cut you off, they don't let you finish speaking, you just keep beating yourself. But the thing is about people that's not been down into that level of pain inside of themselves, they don't want to hear it. They don't, they're like, it does not compute. If they felt that on the inside of themselves, they would listen. They would want to do anything to pull that human being out of that level, because that human being is actually reaching out for help. So that's the level that I do. That's my depths of it. Because when I'm in there, it's some kind of like thing. But when I was in there with my little inner child, I would be like, that's Saturn for me. Come on, you're
So
gonna do this.
I must have missed it, Tina, because you come across very strong, confident. You do, and I actually admire that in you.
Thank you.
Probably more confident than me, and I apparently I'm a little bit confident, but I have that conviction. When you speak, there's conviction because you know yourself. And I think, in my opinion, I think more people need to hear Tina. That's just my opinion.
Well, thank you. I had to reel it in because when I got permanently kicked off of Twitter before it was X, I never even got X. I would not tell my story and talk about it the way that we've had to buffer it with the language here, which I think is a really good thing. And so it was met with a lot of so that was just not something that needed to be. I needed to talk about it the way it happened. I needed to speak my truth. But when it met with the sound of the way that my truth actually sounded, because it really was that way, that helped me to understand and heal also in a way that I could talk about it that wasn't causing someone else who had not been exposed to that kind of stuff to kind of feel it and maybe they needed to feel it, I don't know, to kind of say like, whoa, snap out of it, because people are really suffering. And just because you think you know it all and you think you got it going on, you might want to just sit your ass down and, have some compassion for somebody else, because people on this planet are suffering. They are really suffering, and they're trying and wanting and trying and doing so. They're attempting to reach out to come out of it. And that's another thing about your space, because the last time I spoke on your panel, it was really weird because you asked me some questions and I answered it, but I didn't go into the second part of my question, my part. But all I wanted to do is just really say thank you, which I guess I'm going to say right now, too, is that I decided that I was going to continue to go to your live, but I was going to just stay in the comments because I knew that I was still raw about what was happening, and it was kind of getting me like, whoa. But I knew where I was going with it, and I knew what I had to say, and I knew that whoever needed to hear it was going to hear it. But the scripture that came to me about that was like being a little dog at the table. Like even the little dogs take the crumbs from the table, or the lady, some kind of, it's in the Bible
Yeah,
here.
so I think that's completely misunderstood.
Okay.
Not
Well,
to
this,
mention that dog's a man's best friend or human's best friend. I don't
well,
think it was meant derogatory. I
I
honestly,
didn't take, I
yeah.
took it like I'm gonna just be blessed that I'm in an environment where I can meet all of these wonderful people that show up there, because I have just met so many wonderful people in your space. And I know it's because of the discipline. I know it's because of the order. And so it covers a lot of natural laws that are there. And so that was one thing that I thought, I'm really busy. I'm really busy with my healing. Like I was healing so many things. Sometimes when I'm in the comments and I'm just listening and I'm attempting to be there to find out, because I'm reading the room too. And I know you know this, because I have a mission and a job here that I have to find people that I can resonate with. And I also have to get up under and help raise up or enlighten or send love their way or something. And sometimes put my foot down. It's happened a couple of times, because there has to be this kind of wiggle, that we're in this year of the snake, through bringing this, you could tell where a snake's going by where the head's pointed. Well, that's what's happening. We're finding out where the group of collective is heading by what's coming out of their mouth, by their heart, because what the mouth speaks is what's in the heart. But their head will be saying one thing, and you can tell now, I know y'all could tell, when somebody's speaking from their head, when somebody's speaking from their heart, when somebody's a little bit mixed up about it, and like that. So that's also something that I'm doing, because that's just something I can do while I'm gleaning the little crumbs from the table, like the kid table.
Tina, you know what? Yeah, there's a seat at the table for you. How's that? Because I honestly, I'm going to say it. Okay, this is about the true Christ, so let's use the right words. So I am blessed with amazing people that come to my life, and I've always said it. It would be nothing without those amazing people. I'm just there facilitating, regulating, making sure it doesn't get out of hand, and making sure everyone has a chance to speak. But where's the magic? The magic comes from every single person who speaks and everyone in the comments, and even just people that come and listen, because we're all connected to a collective consciousness, and we are creating a shift in that consciousness. So the people on the fence, the idle ones who don't even realize what's happening, are going to now have thoughts that differ, because the collective consciousness feeds all of us, right? So it's important that people come and share what I call their piece of the puzzle. Everybody's got a different piece, a different size, different shapes, but they all fit together because we are one. We truly are. Even the ones that come across as bullies, the ones who are fighting something inside of them, and they lash out at other people. When we start to become aware, we realize that, including myself right now, I'd say 51%, let's use that, of what we say is meant for us to hear. I'll say it again. When I'm speaking right now, it's for me to realize I'm reaffirming this in my conscious mind. And we hear other people accusing others of certain things and they're guilty of it themselves. That's because they haven't connected consciously to that realization. And then when that happens, sometimes people feel embarrassed, ashamed, and they disappear. And that's the unfortunate part. This is where we have to be a welcoming community, understanding, holding no judgment, and just embracing every current moment. Like Forerunner in the comments, hey, brother, Bill says it, love is the glue. It really is about that. But how do we get to that space where we're 51% love at least? Maybe that's all we need.
Yeah, just tip the scale.
75% would be better, but hey, let's start with
If
being above water.
51% gets you, you said it. What did you say you could swim with 51%?
51%, you can swim across the ocean. Well, maybe not the ocean, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, because that is the determining factor. That's the one. So all of that energy from what's considered the dark side, all of that feminine energy that is transmuted into the meeting in the middle because of the action, it's all coming together. It is all working together. The dark and the light. What's considered the dark and the light, the masculine, the feminine. It works together. It's all one inside of self.
See, Bill's had more practice than the rest of us, though. He's got a
Yeah.
great way of, lifting the energy. Have you noticed every time Bill speaks, I go to a different place. I find myself at a different place, a very calm, peaceful place. Never comes in with drama, never comes in with negativity. If he's all love and light, then I want to be all love and light too.
He has an appreciation for life and his lessons and what he's learned and what he sees as beauty. He has an appreciation. He's a good guy.
Well, he's the kind of guy that he's not going to give you a fish for lunch. He's going to teach you how to fish, right? So you can keep doing that the rest of your life on your own.
That's right. Well, we definitely have a future, and it's definitely pivoting on the planet. And a lot of things have come to a balance tonight, and I know this to be true. I want to thank you. How you feeling about it?
Thought we were actually going to butt heads a bit more on the dogma, on the religious dogma, but it's all good because yeah, there's no need to. You
I don't
know,
agree with religion.
well, I don't like seeing some of the religious lives. If I can say one more thing, I don't like seeing the religious lives that really I can see the fruits of the tree, and it's not a great tree. I think they're misrepresenting Christ and what he taught and what he was, which was love. I think there is a need, perhaps, for them to be where they're at, for them to learn what they need to learn. That's why, I'm ecstatic when I hit 70 people in my life, but it's not 70,000 because it is the narrow path. So I'm just showing up for those who are, looking for a space where, we can all elevate to a place where we just get that little sample, that little taste of what could be in the future, even if it's only 3 nights a week. And then I know there's other live hosts that have great spaces too. and yours is one of them, Tina. I don't always get to, like, our paths don't always cross when it comes to me visiting your lives when you have other people here. But I guess what I'm saying is, even if it's one person that we help, you never know that one person that really needed to hear something that, maybe Sarah Lynn said, or Azriel, or you in the comments even. We don't know. So we just show up. And we show up, why? Because we know that by doing so, we're contributing, and in a very real way, we are creating an energy that will take on a life of its own,
That's right.
and it will spread.
That's that pivot.
Sorry?
That's the pivot. There was like 7 or 8% when I first got on TikTok, and I knew that we were climbing with the people that I was meeting. That enough of us now. I don't have a number on it yet, but it's gonna come. It's gonna surface again. That it takes a certain percentage for this whole pivot on planet Earth, and we're pivoting the planet with what's happening right now, for sure. Mystical Wonder has a question too.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't understand it fully.
It's addressed to both of us, so let's go back to the top. And how do we avoid turning the true Christ, and then the rest is at the bottom, into just another spiritual ego identity? Good question.
That is a good question. Yes, because why replace one misrepresentation with another? Okay. Because the Christ's teachings do not box in the truth. In fact, it's there is no box. So the teachings are different for everyone. And what I mean by that is the identities associated with Christ consciousness are different for everyone because we're all different. What is the same is that, ultimately we are empowering the individuals, not as a collective, even though we use that word, we use community and things like that, but we're not all saying the same things, and that's the way it should be. What we are doing is, if the creator wanted to experience infinity, well, he's going to do it through 8 billion people, right? So let's just allow that authenticity to rise out. And what is the identity then? Maybe the identity is that there is no identity. Because ultimately, we could see how, even in what is written about Christ, and I don't mean about others, but what Christ said and what he taught, we look at how quick he was to stop others from judging. And to me, not only judging, but condemning. Condemning in the sense where we attach a good or bad, on a person. We can look at actions and say, well, that's not good. I don't need that in my life. That's cool. Doesn't mean you don't need that person in your life. There's a difference. So it's about separating the essence, the nature of the person, which is, God within, compared to where they're at, and perhaps the actions that don't resonate with where you're at. It's complicated, guys. But the easy way is just every time something is written down, we limit it. Isn't that true? Like when we try to say, here are the 10 commandments, here are the 7 laws or the 12 principles, and we just limit everything. isn't it, wouldn't it be a great place if we could just allow people to be who they are, provided they're not taking away the opportunity for others to be who they are, right?
That's the part, though, right there. You just highlighted that. Because when somebody's coming in bullying, that people don't want good-hearted people that ain't. They're trying to really find who their essence really is created to be. That's my part of the ego question about this, is that there's no, for me, there's no ego in, which to me is my survival portion of me. There's none of that in the true Christ, because we feel safe. We don't need to feel like we have to survive or defend ourselves or not speak because somebody's being a bully or whatever in out there. Are we getting the right information? Is that true? Is that not true? We're so busy having to filter our safety. So the true Christ, with the true Christ, that's why it's mentioned. The Bill has the numbers more than 300 something times, I think, about not fearing in the Bible and to not be anxious for anything. Just those two things: not be anxious. Notice when you're being anxious, and don't do it. Figure out how that works for self, and don't fear, because we are safe in the true Christ. That's what he came for us to feel safe. And this planet, it ain't safe out there. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. Yeah, it is safe within, though, no matter how I feel. And when that is manifesting out, we are safe. I've seen the Red Seas part on my behalf. I know that I'm safe. It's just as a child, I didn't feel safe. And so that carried over into my thought process, which then I was creating my own reality from based on whatever. But to me, that's how the ego doesn't spread to pervert the true Christ way, because it can't. The essence of a human being is going to prevail the way the true Christ says it must prevail, because when one is in meditation long enough and is still long enough and allows the stuff to bubble up and then sifts and sorts and gets rid of it, lets it go, the essence is there. That's when they say they unalive the ego, do all this with the ego. It's not really about that. My ego is what survived me. It caused me to live. I was able to listen to that portion of myself and trust that severe portion of myself that was going to make this happen no matter what, until I didn't need to do that, because I trusted in what the Messiah did for us. And it took a lot of work, a lot of being still, a lot of letting go. And that's my answer to that part.
Yeah, so we can never unalive the ego. There, I'm going to say it. It's impossible. The reason it's impossible is because ego is also has a higher and a lower self. And it's how we identify with ourselves. So if you're willing to just let go of completely everything and be nothing, how can you even be aware of it? You can only be aware through your ego. It's about training your ego, or at least ascending your yourself, because the ego doesn't even exist, really. I mean, it's, what is ego? Ego is me, except I'm a complex being. I am receiving guidance from a body that wants to procreate and survive and at all costs in this dog eat dog world. But then I have the higher ego, or the higher self. I mean, the word self is in the higher self. It's there. It's ego. You cannot unalive it. It's about, Christ said, being born again, and it's not the religious sense. Born again of the Spirit. It is to see through a different perspective, a different understanding, a true, authentic, higher understanding. But you're still going to identify, because otherwise we cannot even report back to what we've experienced if we're not there to experience it. Never unalive the ego. I think it's been stigmatized. I think religion, in essence, that's how they suppress or oppress people. like stay in your lane. Well, I don't know if that makes sense.
That's AA. Stay in your lane.
Do you agree with that,
Yeah,
or am I
because
alone?
I lived through it. I lived through the phase of thinking, how do I unalive this part of me that's flamboyant or out there or ambitioning or all of the things that would be considered ego? How do I unalive that? I couldn't. I couldn't. I had to learn that that was part of me. That's that part of me that I had to love through the rest of it. I totally agree. There's no unaliving it. If you unalive that, you're psychotic and you're unaliving yourself because you just have to, as you said, train it. To me, I had to convince it that I was safe. I had to work with myself, that part of myself, and thank that part of myself and release aspects of myself that were not necessary anymore, but that survived me. There was one of the affirmations I did for a long time to get through that was I release and let go the parts of me that I created just to survive. And that meant when I said let go, it was like, where are you going? You know, I'm just going over here. Where's here? I'm integrating into the rest of the parts of myself, which made the burden in different aspects of myself lighter because it was integrating in the whole self. So it wasn't so extreme on one side or the other. Yeah, definitely. Integrating the ego is crucial.
Yeah, and yeah, so they've got us trying to unalive ourselves, really.
Really?
And it might even be easier to do that than to do the work, to
Yes.
discipline yourself, right?
Yeah.
What are we disciplining ourselves for? Does it mean we're getting in line and following, do we become sheep by disciplining ourselves? No, as a matter of fact, by disciplining yourself, that's how you escape the matrix, so to speak. That's how you transcend above this man, all this human made construct of, you know, okay, you're going to go to school, you're going to get a job, you're going to focus on this and that. And what happens is we neglect that spiritual side of ourselves. Now, obviously, we need to do all those things. That's what balance is. Balance is finding a way to navigate through the 3D world and still connect to the higher, you know, aspect of ourselves. Um, but yeah, ultimately, when it comes to that, I think, okay, I'm not naive either. I understand that when somebody says, oh, that guy's egotistical, means that they're coming across as a little too arrogant, a little too self centered, selfish, and cocky, right? Let's use those words as an example. But that's not what ego is. The true definition of ego is self identity. That's how we identify as who we are. So now you have to look within, right? And that's why I think a lot of spiritualists say that you must unalive the ego in order to connect to the higher reality. But you can never truly unalive it. What you have to do is do the work and leave behind the fear based impulses that we have of wanting to one up another person, competition, jealousy, envy, regret, hatred, anger of the negative way, all the negative stuff. So we have to do the work to do that. And guess what? When you do that, you still have an identity. It's just a much more polished one. That's all.
Well, when you were saying about them living in the ego and just using the wordage of, damn, all them words you just used, everybody heard it. That is so evident that there's fear under that. So to me, that's definitely living when you when they say they're being egotistical. Somebody with those traits, whatever you just list, all those that you just listed. To me, that is that way because they're living in one aspect of themselves, and it's being labeled egotistical because that part of themselves is staying so high up there, and I'll just use the word flamboyant, to keep them from being vulnerable within themselves. That's a protection mechanism so that they don't feel that's it's fear. So technically, to me, that is ego, that part of their ego, because it's more than just one little part. But when somebody says being egotistical, that's just a short form name for the whole package of what they're doing with their actions to cover up fear.
You cannot serve two masters. That's what the true Christ said. What do you mean by that, right? I mean, fear. I don't even want to use love. I want to use fear and trust. Let's go with that. Let's go with fear and trust. Are we acting out and responding to things out of fear or out of trust? I mean, is it that simple? Can we simplify it that way? Do I trust that Tina has good intentions by inviting me here? Absolutely. If you show me otherwise, then I will respond in a calm way accordingly, but that's not the case. But I'm going to give everyone trust until they prove otherwise. Why would I not? Because assuming the opposite could be a catalyst to create a situation, right? As opposed, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I think everyone's out to get me, well, then I'm not going to have too many people around.
That's what it is, though. It's people that are afraid to trust, and it's still fear underneath that. When they are afraid to trust, and we had this conversation, y'all might have been a part of this too. I might have been somewhere else, but it's about trusting oneself. When somebody can trust their own self, it makes it an open door to trust others. But would know when I couldn't trust myself. Well, I thought I could trust myself, but the decisions I was making out of trauma were leading me into another way. I would blame the other people that I couldn't trust them when they were just people and being their self. That is why I had to back out of people and get meditating from self and find out what was coming up and whose voice was whose, so that I could create the trust within myself in order to decide when I see a red flag from somebody, I don't give them my trust. I'm the type, I give everybody the trust. I call it, I give everybody a measure until they do something, if they're going to do something, which I don't anticipate them doing anything. So, yeah, but if they're going to be their self and they're not coming to any table from a healed version and they present that, then that puts up another, even if you're healed, that puts up another thing that says, okay, I got to kind of now watch people because somebody just came into my life. Am I reflecting this? Or are they just showing up randomly like they're just an outlier? Or am I perpetuating this from what I'm feeling on the inside of myself? You know how we all talk about all that stuff. But if somebody comes into my space and I know I've gone down my checklist, I can trust myself, I'm in a good place, and they have issues, how do I help them through theirs when they want to block off connection because they are so wounded? So then it's a reciprocal thing on the other side. I have to protect myself from that, you know?
What about, okay, so why is it that we take things personally?
That is a
I
good.
still I still have that sometimes to a small degree. I mean, I manage it, but I feel it. A lesser amount. I just don't let it affect my behavior. But why is it that we take it personally? For example, if all of a sudden I wake up one morning and I can't find Jenny Lane anywhere, and I find out that she blocked me, ouch, that would hurt, and I would really take it personally. But why is it? Why is it that we are still seeking the approval of others when, if we have the approval of ourselves, if we're truly okay with how we are acting, I mean, get rid of all the bullshit excuses. we twist things, we try to manipulate things to justify our actions to feed our lower self.
Mhm.
If we are honest with ourselves, right? Do we need the approval of anyone else?
That's right. That's so true. And that's another thing what we was talking about when somebody has that level of self-love and confidence, and even if they're coming out of stuff and they're still working on that part of it, because people can tell when people are attacking and bullying. It's not obvious. So when I am taking something personally, I think it's also different subjects that somebody can tell that this is something that has gone on. Is it mine? I've gone over it. This is what people do to me. But you can tell when somebody is doing something from their own to attack when you're healed enough to recognize that. So I know I used to take things personally because they in AA it's the 7 step spiritual axiom when the person makes everything about themselves. So which is also the victim mentality. And I knew that I was a victim. I knew I was, but I didn't let myself entertain that because I was too busy surviving. But technically part of my survival toolbox was I would say, but you don't know what I went through. They don't know what I went through. They're acting this way, but they don't know what I went through. They didn't have to know what I went through. They were being themselves, judging what I went through based on their information. I was the one allowing what I went through to keep attracting and trying to convince them that I went through this. I really did. Can't you get it? Can't you be kind? Can't you be nice? But they couldn't, because they had their own set, and that was the level. What you talking about? Okay, I'm gonna just tell you, I call it the shit stinks but it's warm theory. Okay, and if I ever refer to Mr. Potato Head, it's about ass kissing. Okay, there you have it. So that was one of the things, is attracting that like attracts like, to try to get the validation from outside of one's own self, because that level of irritability inside of somebody's self, that is the low vibing energies. So yeah, why do we take things personally? At this point, I think for myself, at this point, I am pretty aware when I'm being attacked or bullied, and when it's blatantly obvious that there's an attack or bullying. But yeah, but when it hurts my feelings, when I feel like I'm misunderstood, like you use the example about somebody not returning a text or something, they must be mad at me or they must be upset with me or something like that. What did I do? And run down the list. I'm probably still a little bit coming out of that, because sometimes I do it with my kids. If they don't respond or do something, I think, oh God, what are they healing that I did to them? What are they undoing that they uncovered that in meditation or something that I did to them, that they're not answering my call, but really they're like, oh, my phone was dead, or I fell asleep, or something like that. There's that.
That's being real. It still happens. It's natural. I think it's a part of us because ultimately we seek that interaction that is healthy. We want to have healthy relationships with people. So even here, even though we've never met each other, all of us, or most of us anyway, um, we still interact, and we interact at a very spiritual level. There is no physical needed for the spiritual. So when we have these discussions, we kind of create a bond, and these bonds are very real. And then when the bonds are broken, we start to question, and then we feel what? Abandoned. We feel hurt. Um, so it is normal to feel that way. I guess at some point, we have to take a deep breath and just walk and understand that all we can ever do is be our true selves. And whatever that manifests, well, I know for me, it's trying to be my true self is is a lot more fulfilling than being that person I was half a lifetime ago, who was really chasing other people's dreams
That's right.
or ideas about me.
That's right. That is so true. Well, yeah. All right. So now, how you feeling about it? I think we should look at some questions.
Yeah, sure. Let's. Well, How does this work? Do you bring people up, or is it?
I mean, I've always been open to open in panel for sure if the guest is willing to do that. So if you want to,
I'm still good. I haven't gotten too tired yet. Old
okay.
me, still good.
All right. Well, then let me go see about the grid. Watch, I'll find the one that I've been looking for the whole night. All right, there we go.